Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beneath the Layers podcast. This is episode number 6. And this week I have a guest who flew all the way in. I'm just kidding. He didn't fly all the way in. Who's visiting out in San Diego. Another guest that we had earlier on the show. He goes by Cami. Right, Cami?
Cami.
Cami's what he likes to go by.
My family calls me, or anyone Jackie knows.
That's what she always refers to you as by, so that's what we refer you as. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to the people listening.
Yeah, so my name is actually Cameron Webb. Go by Cami to family and anyone who Jackie knows. I'm visiting Jackie in San Diego because I went to school at San Diego State for my undergrad, and so I have a lot of friends down here, a lot of connections. But I'm back down visiting because I just graduated from graduate school at UC San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
And I have about 3 months until I start my next kind of career, which is a residency at Stanford as a physical therapist.
Yeah.
But thank you. And so I have a little gap, and I'm just taking some trips and enjoying it.
Just a little vacation before you get into studying.
A little vacation,
again, right?
Exactly.
So you're from Northern California, correct?
From Northern California, just south of San Francisco, Burlingame.
Okay.
It's right by the San Francisco International Airport.
Oh, okay. And so, and you came to San Diego State, right, for college as your undergrad? What did you study while here at San Diego State?
So I studied kinesiology.
Okay.
And San Diego State actually offers a pre-physical therapy program, so it sets you up with all the classes to go right into graduate school as soon as you graduate.
Oh, nice. So what, I guess, got you interested in studying that field and going into becoming a physical therapist?
I've been asked this question a million times because this is the common interview question.
It's the interview question.
And I think my answer has changed a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Just over time, because I've started to realize what I really like about it.
Yeah.
My initial interests were definitely a sports background, always big into athletics and working out.
Okay.
But I had an initial interest in becoming a doctor. And so if you kind of combine those two things, what you get is a physical therapist. So that was my initial interest.
Yeah.
But I think some injuries actually played a key role in me having a strong desire to pursue a career in it.
Okay.
I had a torn LCL when I was in high school and had to do some physical therapy for that.
Yeah.
Great outcomes. And then in my freshman year of college, I had a herniated disc, which left me with chronic low back pain for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of kind of self-rehab and experimenting with different exercise and aquatic therapy until I really found what worked.
Yeah.
But it was ultimately exercise which healed both those injuries.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so it really showed me the power of exercise in the human body and healing. And so I think that really drove me to, I want to be able to teach this to other people.
Yeah. So you have a real big interest in sort of the becoming a physical therapist in like sports-related injuries, or just in general, like is there a specific sort of, or is it all like the same essentially?
I think my interests are all the same. It's the power of the human body.
Yeah.
My specific interest in the population I want to work with is sports or orthopedic background.
Okay.
I just find it most interesting because those are the people I relate to most. The athletes who play the sports and get hurt, or your general working class who's kind of like that weekend warrior who kind of gets hurt, because I kind of follow that same path.
Yeah.
And I also find it interesting. It's kind of like a puzzle when someone comes in with an injury. An orthopedic injury, one person with chronic low back pain is a lot different than another person with chronic low back pain. And so it's not so cut and dry. It's a lot of sifting through the puzzle pieces and figuring out how to put it all together.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I feel like each individual person will probably heal at different rates as well too, right? So
Absolutely.
it could be a lot quicker than others, yeah.
Yeah, and the cause of it could be very different.
Yeah.
Just because they have chronic low back pain, what was the ultimate reason for that occurring?
Yeah, that's true. So do you think that if you didn't have those experiences, I guess, growing up where you became injured and used physical therapy, that you would still be in this field today or pursuing this sort of career?
I think I'm in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to be really good at this career, and I've really enjoyed it. So I think somehow I would have found, my life would have led me to this career path.
One way. So it's like a destiny sort of thing.
I kind of think so. I mean, that's a strong way to put it, but yeah, I guess so.
And so just from talking with you right now, it seems like you really enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's probably something that's really important, especially when you are deciding on a career path. And so at what point, I guess, did you realize that, this is what's going to make you happy career-wise? Like, this is exactly what, like that moment where you realize, like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. When you're in school and you're studying for, most of your life,
mm-hmm.
I've been in school since I was, 5 years old in kindergarten. And then you go all the way through college and you go immediately into graduate school. You don't really quite have the feedback that you want
mm-hmm.
Of that you're in the right place.
Yeah.
You're still just kind of hoping that you've picked the right destination.
Yeah.
But in graduate school, specifically physical therapy, you have the opportunity to do residencies, which are kind of like a little segment or a little practice into what your future career is going to be like.
Okay.
And so it was in these these clinical internships that I really discovered why I wanted to, that I was in the right place. And I think that moment came, not too long ago, a couple months ago, at my most recent clinical rotation, when I actually started to realize that I knew something, that I had the tools to actually make a difference in someone else's life, to really help them heal. And I saw my patients actually getting better.
Oh, nice.
And that's when I realized that I'm in the right place.
I assume that you probably, that specific patient where you like figured out that you're in the right place, you'll never forget them, right? You'll always remember that person.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't mean to say that none of my patients previously had gotten better. Yeah. But it just really started to hit me that my patients are doing better, and it's because of what I'm teaching them and assisting them with.
So is there, I feel like that's something that you can only get from kind of like experiencing it on your own, right? There's only so much you can get from being in a classroom setting, but when you actually get and more hands-on, you get the feel of like, okay, like I can do this, or like I really want to do this sort of thing, right? Absolutely.
It's so different out there when you're actually working with a patient, and no patient presents the way the book kind of tells you they will. And so, it's a lot of, working as a team with the patient to figure out all the information. And then, ultimately you have the tools somewhere in your toolbox, and it's just figuring out which ones to use at the right time.
And how to use them, I remember, I studied biology in college, and I thought, I knew a lot about it. And then I joined my very first research lab, and they told me to do this experiment, and I just messed it all up because I had no idea what I was actually doing. Once that hands-on started, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
So different, right?
It's so different, so much different. But once you just practice with that, then you get a whole lot better. And like you said, each thing's a little bit, in your case, each patient will be a little bit different. And so that helps build your own tool set, because if you see it again, you'll recognize it because you've helped a patient with it before or something along those lines. Right?
Absolutely. The more people you see or the more experiments you do, the better you get.
The better you get at it. Now you said your population, or sort of where you want to focus, is a little bit more sports related. Yeah. Do you have like a goal of, working for like professional teams or something like that? Is that like a aspiration on top of your goals that you have now, or you just, wherever you end up landing, you're happy with that?
I think any young athlete who decides to go into physical therapy has the aspirations to work for some sports team. Yeah. It'd be so cool to be on the sidelines at the Warriors or the Raiders or the 49ers or something. Yeah, I'm a Bay Area fan, as you guys can tell. But, that's just not the path that everyone ends up as. Only so many PTs can work for their sports team.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty competitive as well, right?
It's very competitive.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not out of the cards. My residency at Stanford will be a great stepping stone to kind of put me in that direction. Make some good connections. It's definitely a possibility in the future. But I'm not counting on it, and I know I'll be happy just working in a general orthopedic clinic with a sports emphasis. So you can work with athletes, whether high school or collegiate athletes, and still get that same joy as a young athlete yourself. It doesn't have to be professional athletes, but
I mean, that's cool too. I mean, high school, college, you're going to need physical therapists too, right?
But I do really want to work with a population that's eager to get back to a higher level of activity. Whether it's working out or going on backpacking trips or, you know, getting back to playing pickup basketball. I just want some active goal to be their future.
Yeah, that's really admirable. And one thing that I just thought of right now is that when somebody comes to a physical therapist, a lot of times it's not the happiest of settings because, you know, they're hurt or something's wrong with them, right? So how do you approach a patient who's in that state of mind, who probably feel a little down on themselves because, you know, maybe they were an athlete and now this injury or whatever the case might be is hindering them and their progress? Like, how do you approach discussing with this person and helping them feel better and being motivated enough to do what you're telling them to do in order to get back to where they were?
Yeah, well, I think actually you just kind of answered it yourself. They're bummed or down about not being able to do the things they want to do, but their motivation is to get back to that point. Anyone who's coming to an outpatient physical therapy clinic is there by choice. They know they're hurt, they know they're injured, which will kill their spirits, but they're there because they know that you have something to help them with and that they're going to be able to get back to their old selves if they just kind of follow the steps that you give them.
That's always interesting because, like, some people can be a little bit more difficult to work with than others, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you, like, in that sort of situation, like, what is something that you either learned while doing your programs to do, or that you just found on your own that works well with somebody like that?
I think the biggest tool is meeting them where they're at. And working as a team. Physical therapists, don't have all the answers. We just have more answers than our patients than our patients, and so we need to work with them in order to get towards their goal. So really working as a team and telling them, I don't have all the answers, but based on the way you're presenting, based on the things you're telling me, based on the things you want to get back to, I think we can achieve that, and this is what we need to do. What do you think? Like, where's your mind at? And really trying to meet them where they're at.
So it's a lot of really good communication and conversation that you need to have with them in order to understand where they're at.
Absolutely. And physical therapy is an interesting medicine because, I mean, when you think about taking a drug or getting a surgery, the patient doesn't actually have to do anything. They just have to be there. They just have to show up or take the med. But in physical therapy, I can't do the work for them. They actually have to put in the work. So I have to motivate them to want to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense because, like you said, surgery or just taking medications doesn't really require much on their part. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. So a little bit off topic, but what are some things that, other than physical therapy, that you just enjoy doing in life? Like any hobbies that you like you enjoy, that you have, that you just love doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really active with sports, but I played all the contact sports, lacrosse and football in high school, so you can't really play pickup lacrosse or football.
That's true, you can't.
But I like to play recreational basketball. I also love snowboarding and hiking and camping, just a lot of outdoorsy stuff. There's definitely some goals I have for things that I want to try out and get good at. It just hasn't come along yet, but I always am working towards getting good at something. So some things I want to look into in the future would be something like photography or woodwork. I've always been interested in
woodworking. That's really interesting. I'm super impressed with people that can do that because
it's a crazy art.
It really is. The way that it turns out is just really amazing. How they just it's just one of those artistic things, which I think, I'm not a very artistic person, and so when I see I don't feel like I'm a very artistic person, so when I see like really cool art, whether it's woodworking or painting, I'm just so amazed. I'm like, how can people do this? Because I can't even imagine doing something like that. But Most of your time, even up until now, you've just been spent in school, right?
In school.
So you haven't had too much time to, I guess,
pursue some things like that.
Exactly. So
yeah.
When you ultimately are finished and become a physical therapist, will you have that time to use on, maybe advancing your woodworking skills or something like that? Or is that one of those jobs where it's kind of like a physician where you're just working all the time and on call maybe, and you can't really plan time around that?
That's a good question. I think in my early career, I'm still kind of finding my foothold, and maybe it takes me a little bit more time with my patient to get through the session. So really the only overflow from my 8-hour workday is notes, documentation. And so if you can get the documentation done in your workday, then you're golden. You don't have anything to take home. And so I'll have plenty of time to do that stuff. But what I've noticed in my most recent clinical rotation is that I'm often going a little bit overtime with some of my patients. And that some of my notes kind of flow into the evening.
Got it.
And it doesn't take up too much time, but it is something that you kind of have to be aware of.
Because by the end of the day, you might be a little too tired to actually work on some of these hobbies.
Especially because working out is so important in my life too, that I have to spend part of my day working out.
And do you, are you more of the type of person, like a morning type of person where you work out in the morning, then get everything done, and then, kind of at night relax and go to bed? Or are you more of a evening, night type of person where you probably work out after work and then not have as much time to do hobbies and stuff?
I work out whenever I can find the time to work out. I'm definitely a morning person though. So I'm fine either starting work at 6 a.m. or starting work at 9 and working out at 6 a.m.
Got it.
But I'm going to wake up early regardless.
Okay. And so exercise and working out for you, is that just do you do it to stay healthy, or do you do it for a self-improvement type of mentality, always working on yourself sort of thing, or is it a mixture of both maybe?
I would say all the above.
Because for me, so for example, someone like me, I want you to give me some advice.
Sure.
Someone like me is I enjoy working out, and when I'm there, it's fine, I can do it, and I can be consistent with the workouts and everything. But I have a really hard time getting to the gym, or taking that initial step to get there. Because it's just, I don't know, it's some type of unmotivation that I don't really know what it is. But once I think about I got to drive 15, 20 minutes to work out or whatever, what sort of advice could you give someone like that who's trying to, start this habit of working out, but they're just having trouble taking that initial step?
I think I have a question first, and it would be, what are your goals for working out?
So personally for me, my goals would just to be, a little bit more fit and healthy. I feel like there's some days where, whether I get home from work or something like that, I feel a little lazy or groggy and don't really want to feel that way, but I still have a hard time motivating myself enough to go to the gym to make myself feel a little bit better about myself rather than that. But I just kind of dwell on that feeling and dwell on that and just maybe tomorrow sort of thing, maybe tomorrow. It's always that. It's always that mindset. Well, maybe I'll just go tomorrow. Sort of thing.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to be fit and healthy that aren't just going to the gym. So maybe you're not motivated to go to the gym because you really don't like going to the gym that much. But do you like playing soccer, or do you like, playing pickup basketball? Or would you be more motivated if you had a home gym and you could just do it right there in your living room? Because your goals are right in line for going to the gym. But maybe going to the gym just isn't really, subconsciously what you want to do, and that's why you can't motivate yourself to do it.
I mean, that's true. It might be that.
So that would be one of my approaches to try and get you to go to the gym. But if none of those work, then the other option is, I think you have to just develop a routine.
Okay.
Because I struggle to get to the gym after, a long 3-day weekend where I've been hanging out with my friends and, going to, a party or even just relaxing for a week.
Yeah.
Starting back up is the hardest part.
Yeah.
But once you get rolling, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you start to see results. So maybe you just have to push yourself, force yourself to go for a couple of weeks, and then it's going to start getting a lot easier.
I think that probably would happen for me just because I know that there was, a couple years ago where I was consistently going to the gym and, it was great. And especially like you kind of mentioned, once you see those first results, you kind of get an extra motivation feeling. It's like, all right, like I'm seeing something, so, just keep going sort of thing. But you stop for a weekend or you stop for a week, it's really, really hard to come back from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's definitely happened to me, and I can admit that. But I don't really know if it's necessarily the gym itself. Like I don't think I mind it that much. Like I can go to the gym. It's just I will say I do enjoy activities a little more, like playing basketball or football or some sort of sport. Climbing as well. I do enjoy that a little bit more because to me that's just a little bit more fun. People have fun at the gym, and that's what keeps them going. But like playing some sort of sport is just a lot more fun to me. So it's so much easier to like do.
Yeah, you don't even feel like you're working out.
Yeah. And hiking is a big thing for me as well. But you kind of don't go on hikes all the time just because of work. So I'm not able to go on hikes every week or weekend. But every once in a while I like to do that. And that, I think, being out there is really peaceful to me. So I can kind of just like do it and not even realize I'm doing it sort of thing.
I agree. I'm the same way. Just anything outdoors for me.
Yeah. So just a little bit more on the self-improvement concept. If there was somebody who's having trouble sort of getting to the next step, whether it's mentally, physically, what's something that you've done in your life to sort of push yourself to get to your next step, whether it is being in the career or the physical therapist career, or whether it's exercising for you or playing sports? When you're playing sports like football, I'm sure when you first started you weren't the best player, but you eventually worked yourself up to be a pretty good player, right? So what are some of those things that you do to help you sort of improve yourself on whatever it is that you're trying to, or whatever goals it is you're trying to obtain?
Yeah, well, I mean, goals alone are enough to kind of get me to motivate myself.
Yeah.
And most of my goals are to not let the people around me down, to be the best person I can be myself, to not let my parents down, who have supported me so much, my family, my friends, and just to be the best at whatever I do.
Okay.
And I know I'm not going to get there, and I know I'm not always going to be able to make everyone proud, but just having that in the back of my head is enough motivation to push me to keep going.
So do you think that is sort of based off of the people you've surrounded yourself with?
Absolutely. I would say my motivations come from the people around me, whether it's out of love or competition.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't really matter. It's to keep pushing myself to get better.
Yeah. And, that's pretty interesting, because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you have a special group of people around you who you find really important, you want to become a better person a lot of times to help them become a better person as well.
Absolutely.
Because they're surrounding themselves with you, so it's kind of like, back and forth.
You nailed it. That's it. We can all kind of, feed off of each other to keep progressing in our life, and it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to be born to the most incredible family, incredible siblings, and my parents have given me everything in the world, and I know I'm super privileged for that reason, and I'm not gonna let my privilege go to waste. I know I have it. I have to use it.
Yeah.
And I have this privilege for a reason. I'm gonna help the people around me to achieve their goals, and in my life, that's to help people become healthier, to live a fulfilling life that's filled with health and strength, and be able to do the things they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's really cool to hear that coming from you, because I know a few people who've kind of grown up in a similar sort of setting where they've, really lucky in that aspect, or fortunate to have a lot of great people around them, but they just, sometimes, they just make certain decisions and, they throw that sort of thing away. And so seeing someone like you taking advantage of that, I think is really cool and really important, especially to understand and realize that you have that, because if you didn't, then who knows where you would be right now.
Yeah, we can't all be born equal in the same situations.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, that doesn't mean that someone who's born with privilege versus someone who isn't can't achieve the same status, but it's the duty of the person who's born with a little bit more privilege to maybe give a little bit more to help the people around them.
Yeah, and that's really good. And I think that's, like, just hearing you say that makes me think you'll be a really good physical therapist.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So whoever ends up being your patient is really lucky in that aspect. So yeah, that's really cool.
Thank you.
So just bringing it a little bit back, when you left from your family up north to come to school down here, I don't know if you knew anybody that was coming with you, but you had that support group up there with you, and now you're leaving them to come and like do school. Like, how was that transition for you?
I think everyone has a different mindset when they leave, high school and go off to college for the first time, what colleges they apply to. Yeah. Some kids want to stay close to home and be at a small school. Some kids want to leave the state as far as they can go from their parents and just start over.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get away because I wanted to achieve some independence.
Okay.
But I didn't want to be so far that I wouldn't be able to come home pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to a place that, other friends would want to visit. My family would want to visit.
I see, yeah.
So I didn't know anyone in San Diego.
Okay.
But, my grades were okay. San Diego State was a pretty good school. Yeah. It was a state school, so it was totally within my budget. And it had the major that I wanted.
Yeah.
It was in a cool city that my friends would come visit, that my family would come visit, a place that I wanted to check out.
Yeah.
And so it was just the right place, and it ended up being probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And I was lucky to have had some great roommates my freshman year and a great floor, and I think that has a lot to do with your start in your college career. I joined a fraternity and I started playing lacrosse. Lacrosse kind of got put on hold because of the injury I talked about before, which is totally okay. But I just made some great friends. Once again, surrounded myself with really good people. Interestingly enough, my closest friend group in college, who I met my freshman year, one of my classmates, he was in the same major as I was. His name's Kyle. He's from San Diego. He introduced me to all of his friends. And we are now, the 5 of us, all becoming doctors of some kind.
Oh, nice.
Whether really there's a couple physical therapists, one primary care physician, one dentist, 2 going for their PhD. Oh, wow. Just a great medically sound group of individuals.
That's really cool. It's kind of like that thing where they say, like, if you enter a room and you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, like you're probably in the wrong room, sort of thing. So you surround yourself with all these people, right?
Yeah.
Or you have these big aspirations. It's really cool. I think that's going to be probably a lot of good stories to tell when you guys get older too. And
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we all have that work hard, play hard mentality. We loved to party, but we all worked really hard and made sure we pushed each other.
Yeah.
Like you said, surrounded yourself with the people who, we'd go to the library and study for 2 hours a night just so that we could go drink beers on a Friday or Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. You had your priorities straight at that time, so that's cool. Especially here in San Diego, because I know there's San Diego State's not the only college here. There's UC San Diego too, so it's a big college sort of.
Yeah, and USD.
City. Yeah. Oh yeah, and USD as well. Yeah, that's right. You came here before your sister for school, right?
Yeah.
So when your sister, decided to come and move over here, did she go to you and it's like, oh, like, how's the city and stuff like that? Did she ask you questions?
Absolutely. So my sister went to UCLA, so it's not too far.
Yeah, it's not too far.
So she was pretty familiar with kind of Southern California.
Yeah.
I don't think she had spent too much time in San Diego, though.
Yeah.
So she definitely came to me and asked, but I ultimately think that she kind of came to that conclusion on her own.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to convince her that San Diego was great. Everyone who knows anything about San Diego wants to move here.
Yeah. So you're going to do your residency at Stanford, right?
Yes.
Do you plan on, like, when you eventually have your own sort of practice, staying in that area, or would you want to come to San Diego? Would you want to go somewhere else maybe?
So when I was kind of deciding whether I was going to apply to a residency or not, which happened last December, about 6 months from graduation is when you kind of start thinking about that next step.
Yeah.
I had the goal of, okay, I'm going to apply to some residencies in a couple different locations, mainly around the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But if I don't get into one of those residencies, then the two places I'm going to look for a job are going to be either Sacramento or San Diego. And San Diego is definitely number one on the list. I love Sacramento too in a different way, but I have a lot of family up there. Okay. I've been traveling up there since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And so I just know the area well, and I've seen it grow. But San Diego is just a little bit more fun. The thing I liked about both places is that there's just great people, great food, great beer, great outdoors things to do.
Outdoors, yeah.
And they're both relatively affordable.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll stay in the Bay Area just because I don't see there being any way I could afford a house anytime soon.
Got it, yeah.
And things can always change, and I'm going to make a fine salary, but a physical therapist salary isn't enough to own the house that you want in the Bay Area. So San Diego or Sacramento or even, any other pretty much place in California is a little bit easier to see a future with a family and a house and all those things.
Yeah, I know. I do know that the Bay Area is one of the most expensive areas, especially in California.
Yeah,
so.
it's crazy just growing up there and seeing it change over the years. Yeah, I don't think it's in the cards to own a house there, not on my salary.
Yeah, well, I mean, San Diego is a great city, so I wouldn't blame you from trying to come.
Yeah, I'm not too bummed about it. It's going to be nice to have a change of pace. I'm getting up to the point where I'm not sick of the Bay Area, but I had a taste when I came down to San Diego for undergrad, and I'm eager for that taste of independence because I've actually been living with my parents throughout graduate school, and I mean, I love my parents to death. They're incredible, and I have an awesome house, and it's such a great support system. Yeah. But there's a level of independence you can't achieve when you're living at home.
Do you think if you were to, let's say you were to move down here to San Diego and your sister's here, do you think your parents would think about coming down here too, or do you think they'd stay there?
My parents have told me over and over again that they're going to move to wherever they have the most family and most access to their kids and soon to be grandkids.
Okay.
So, I mean, if me and my sister are down here, there's a good chance my parents will end up down here.
They'll end up down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, if that does happen, that'd probably be good for both of you guys, just because that's your support system, right? So you'd have them closer by. And
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing that I think is pretty interesting is it seems like there's just been a lot of positivity in your life, just from what I've heard. Has there been any other than your injuries that you've sustained over your life, has there been any negative moment in your life that kind of brought you to a down, dark place? And you don't have to go into details of how or what that was or how it made you feel, but when you found yourself in that place, what's some things that you did, or maybe some people that you went to help you sort of come out of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Overall, I think I've been really lucky in my life. And I've always taken any of the negatives in my life and just, I have a really strong faith, and I know that any negatives, were supposed to happen for a reason, and I can learn from them and take them and turn them into something else.
Yeah.
But maybe one of those negatives was sometime in between ending undergrad at San Diego State, moving back home, and then starting graduate school, where I just felt like I was kind of removed from my close friends. And I couldn't really tell if it was something that I was doing or something they were doing. Was I not being a good enough friend? Did they just not like me as much anymore? I don't really know what the reason was, but that was a tough time in my life, just because I felt like, the people that I spend so much time trying to surround myself with good people. And then here are some of my closest friends that I'm feeling removed from. It kind of feels like a part of you is taken away. And so that hit me really hard. I mean, we've talked a lot about how important my life is because of the people that surround me. And that's where I get my energy from and my love from. And those are the people I want to help. And when they're not in your life, it's hard to draw that energy. It's hard to get that motivation. So to get out of that, it was really to become a better friend. And really start to reach out to people and figure out, maybe why we weren't connecting or why there was this gap in our friendship. And so just getting that back on track.
So that really helped you sort of come out of that, and then you were able to realize that, you're able to maintain that relationship. It sounds like, just the aspect of leaving them seemed to be that trigger, because you used to seeing them all the time probably. Yeah, it was definitely, coming to San Diego State, you surround yourself with a different group of friends. Coming back, everyone's a little bit disconnected because they've all been gone for so long. But I don't know, the disconnect was stronger between me and my friends than it seemed like they were with each other. I see. So there was something else in the cards that wasn't just the distance or the time. And so once you're able to, I guess, mend that relationship, you were able to bring yourself out of that sort of slump, I guess you can say. Yeah, but I've fallen back into that a few times. And it all comes back to me I think it all comes back to me not being able to put in the efforts to be a good friend. Part of that is because, graduate school is really demanding, and living at home with your parents, you only can go out so much, and, I don't have an income when I'm in graduate school, so I can't go do all these things that my friends are doing, and I can't go spend weekends with them, and it just seems like I'm at a different place in my life than they were. I was still in school, they were starting their careers. And ultimately it doesn't fall on them, it's more on me. That, I put myself in that place and I didn't make the effort to still connect with them. Got it. And so I kind of fell out of place with some of my friend group. Luckily I hung on to my closest friends. They will never fade regardless of my situation. That's how you have a real true friend right there, true friends, right? No matter what you're going through, they're still going to be there. Absolutely. And so I've really realized who my closest and best friends are in life. And I never want to get rid of any friends. But you're totally right. The ones that are going to be lifelong friends. The lifelong friends. Right now, I'm at a place where I'm really interested in meeting more people. Having just graduated. It's coming out of quarantine. It's an interesting time to kind of be entering a whole new chapter of my life. Because I've had a lot of change in the past, couple weeks. And so I'm just really interested to get out there, meet some new people, and kind of figure out what my next, group or surrounding of people is going to be. I think that's really important too. Me growing up, I was always like I guess more like a shy individual. So I had a really tough time like getting myself into groups of friends. And so a lot of times I would find myself just kind of alone and not really feeling like I had a support system. But then, eventually you find that group of people and like you just never want to let them go, because you've built this relationship that has become really important to you. And so I kind of can relate to where you're coming from, especially since I moved down here to San Diego. Most of my friends are sort of in the Inland Empire area, or like Riverside, which is a little close to LA, a little like 50 miles east of LA, but 50 miles east of LA. And so being down here, I haven't really been able to see them that often. And when I was going to college, it was kind of the same thing. You know, I had a group of college friends that I got really close with. And then we all graduated and went our separate ways and haven't really talked to them or seen them since then. And so it's quite different. But now, since I moved to San Diego, I was able to surround myself with another good group of people which include your sister, by the way.
I mean, I got to meet a few of you last night.
Yeah.
And you guys just seem like you have such an awesome chemistry with your group.
Yeah.
Like, I could really feel the love when I entered the room the other day.
I mean, I feel like we get along really, really well. Like, we're all have interests in different things, but we're able to sort of, you know, unite under one sort of friendship and group and have a really good relationship. And speaking of relationships, you seem like a really amazing guy. Is there like any special person in your life, a significant other right now, or has school just kind of like took over most of your time and you just haven't had time to go out and...
Yeah, so I had a girlfriend entering the program.
Okay.
And so the program's 3 years, and after the first year, things were just like not where we wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And I was so busy, and we lived in different cities. It was just a lot going on. And we ultimately decided, you know, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And so then after that, I kind of just wrote out the next 2 years of school without anything in my mind about, you know, forcing meeting a girl or trying to go out and start another relationship.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't against it. If I had met the girl that I wanted to be with, then, you know, I would have pursued it. But that just never happened.
Yeah.
And it's totally fine. Mm-hmm. And I have just realized since graduating, it seems like all these feelings are coming back to me. Like, I finally feel some sort of freedom and that desire to meet new people, like I said, and to meet a new girl, to have a new special someone in my life. I'm very open to it at this point.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So, like, is there a specific thing you look for in somebody, or you just kind of meet someone and you just feel them out, vibe with them maybe, and, you know, go from there? Or is it like a specific thing that you look for when it comes to that someone special?
I wouldn't say there's anything really specific, but I really want someone who is going to love my love.
Okay.
Someone who's going to let me love them, and then is going to show me a lot of love back.
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't need to have specific interests or a specific look.
Yeah.
They just need to have, you know, that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Where, you know, there's just so much love between us that regardless of what's going on, regardless of what we're doing, you can just feel that we're there for each other.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. Yeah.
That kind of like partnership.
Yeah, it's a partnership, you know. So, yeah, I would agree with that, you know. Yeah. So if there was somebody who was struggling at this moment, who's listening in right now, and they're just having a hard time sort of figuring out, you know, what direction or path that they want to take. Like, it seemed like for you, it was kind of pretty straightforward, you know, like you kind of knew what you wanted to do in high school, I think it was, as you kind of sort of figured out what was the direction you wanted to go in. But if there was somebody who's having an issue with even figuring that out, what's some advice that you can give to them to sort of understand, you know, how to, I guess, approach that situation?
To find, you know, what their meaning is in life, I guess is the question, or like where they're supposed to be.
Essentially what, like what, you can say purpose if you want, like what their purpose in life is, but sort of like
how to take a step forward.
How to take a step forward when they're sort of stuck in between a variety of different options, let's say. Yeah. You know.
I always fall back on faith.
Okay.
Faith has always led me in the right direction. And for a lot of people that might not work, so I'll give a different answer as well. But that's going to be one of my answers. Yeah. So if that seems like something that's missing in your life and that might work, then definitely find your faith and kind of just let your journey kind of take you
Yeah.
But for the people out there who maybe aren't as spiritual, the answer is to take a step back in your life and to really think about what's important to you. And don't let age or money be a factor. And just think about really where you want to be, and then think about the small steps in the right direction to get to that point. I think people think too big picture often, and it's really hard to achieve, this huge lofty goal all at once. And it stands before you, and it's scary to even start that journey because of how long and hard the climb's going to be to get there. But just starting to take those steps in the right direction is how you're going to get there. So take that small step, push yourself to get out of your comfort zone, and start along a different direction in the direction that you want to go.
Yeah.
Just take that small step.
Yeah, like I 100% agree with everything that you just said, because I feel like also at the same time, a lot of people who tend to be in that position, like you said, are focusing too far in the future or on that big picture goal, or even dwelling on some of the mistakes they might have made in the past and sort of are afraid to take risks in that aspect because they're afraid of failing. It's a big thing, afraid of failing is something that I think I was afraid of for a long time. So I just sort of kind of relaxed a little bit and was like, it's better to just live in the present and maybe like short-term goal type of mentality.
Yeah, and to not be afraid of failure, like you said.
Yeah.
Because, failing, can mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
It maybe you just didn't reach the goal that you had intended to, but that doesn't mean that you're back at square zero.
Yeah.
Right? You built something up, you did something to get to that failure.
Yeah.
And so you're at a different point in your life now, and all you have to do is reevaluate, recreate your goal, and then start taking steps towards that. And eventually you're going to succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to end up in the place you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
As long as you keep moving forward.
Yeah, keep moving forward. I always tell people that, just keep moving forward, Yeah. So one question I like to ask on here, you probably heard this yesterday as we were doing this with another guest, but, and it could be a difficult question for some, as some find it a pretty, easy question, especially if they know exactly how they're feeling. And so do you think that you're living a happy life currently? Are you happy with where you're at?
Overall, absolutely.
Overall?
I am so happy to be living and to have the life I do.
Yeah.
I'm not content with every single part of my life.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away that I'm happy to be living and have the life that I do.
Now those little things that you're not content with, those are some of those things that help drive you, right? To sort of kind of
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. I always want to get better.
Yeah.
And you can never stop trying to get better, because there's always something you can be working at.
And I feel like I always try to explain to somebody this feeling that you have, because I have the same feeling, and I feel like always trying to get better, always trying to better yourself comes from playing sports. At least for me, it does.
Yeah.
It has always been, because I've played sports when I was little, all the way throughout high school, and even a little bit after high school and college as well. And just growing up like that, I felt like it's made me into like always wanting to be better at whatever it is that I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I feel I get that same exact sort of mentality from you as well.
Yeah. It's kind of like a competitive mentality, except you don't need to be competitive with the people around you.
Yeah.
It's being competitive with yourself. Proving yourself wrong. Getting better and just taking those steps forward, like we said. Yeah. And keep moving.
Yeah. And so, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we're similar in a lot of ways.
I definitely think so.
Yeah. So I think that's it for this week. Thank you, Cami, for coming on. I really appreciate you for flying down just to do this podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm just kidding. But I look forward to talking with you in the future. Maybe you can come on after your residency and tell us a little bit how that went for you.
That would be cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I'd love to.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.